start with the same question that I asked before, but some people joined in the meantime. So who here is an Enscape user? Oh, wow. The people that came were Enscape users. So more than half of the people know what Enscape, or use Enscape. Who hasn't heard of Enscape at all? Okay, 3, 4, 5 people. Okay, so let's start with you. But first of all, I have to admit something. It was my co-founder's wedding over the weekend, so really, I started preparing this presentation this morning. And I'll get to that later, why that is important. So if you imagine you're an architect. Who here is an architect or in the field? So you have these great plans. Yes, many of you have these great plans of designing great buildings, great houses. And then you get into the job, and I Googled, these are all quotes of what comes up if you type in architecture job. And so what you find out is you work long hours in different places and visions of others. And you also have to spend a great deal of work trying to convince others from your design or of your design. So plus you are always under pressure and you're running late and you have to do last minute changes and presentations of your project. So imagine you're this architect and you have, I have to stand in front of the microphone, sorry for that. I can't walk around. So so you run late and work until the last minute of your project, and then a principal comes in or a client comes in and wants to see what you got, how far have you gotten in your project. This is exactly what we had in mind with Enscape, because then you have your project, maybe last minute you're done, but now you need to present it. So if you think of her, she has the project, she wants to present it to a customer in a great way, but she doesn't have time. That's why we do real-time rendering. So this is what Enscape does, and I'll show you some examples of our users' work. So this is stuff that they posted on our forum, things that you can do in Enscape, where you just create out of your design a great project. But you wonder, well, maybe I've heard a couple of other talks this morning about real-time rendering, about presentation. So is this something what's new about it? Isn't that something that everyone can do? And it's true that there's many other solutions out there, especially now, they're all coming out. But the thing about Enscape is, it's just one click, and someone stole this from me. I think I did this in a different presentation. I saw it this morning. What's different with Enscape is, does it really work? Yes, and I can show you. I quickly have to change computers because I run it on since we're sponsored from Lenovo, great NVIDIA graphics card, so that's why I changed computers. Actually, I should have done this before. So you see, for those of you who don't know Enscape, so you have your project here. Enscape sits as a plugin in your architectural program like Rhino, Revit, SketchUp, ArchiCAD. You press start. It takes a few seconds. Oh, whoops. Oh, this is something I wanted to show later. But Revit wants to help me. And we're good. Well, maybe I should work on the process of this, but this is something that you could then show your client. So you have your project in your CAD program, And you see, even though it takes a few seconds, you can directly, without much hassling, show your project. And it's rendered in real time, so you can look around, so you can change the time of day, and it looks very realistic. And this is something that everyone can do. It's not something that you need to prepare like other tools. You need to export it to a different file format. It sits in a different program. You maybe need to be a programmer, write some code, so you get some functionality in there. For Enscape, you just press a button, and it's there. And you can walk around, change time of day. And the thing is, it's still linked to your project, to your Revit project. So if I select something like the table, move it over, it's there. So, oops. So you see, changes can be done in real time. And this is something that you don't get from the other tools. So you can actually work until the very last minute, or even work in a, in the project as the customer sits next to you, says, I want to see this changed, and you don't have to go through all this process again and re-export it, but you can actually show them in real time what it's about. And this is the beauty of Enscape. We want to make things very simple, and so showing you this, I want to show you also there's a couple of things that you can do other than just navigate through. You can also export it, for example, as a rendering. Just save this out, and again, what takes very long with other programs, here it's in a couple of seconds. This is a 4K rendering, and it's there. So this is one. The other one is you can also render out a panorama. And it's halfway done. Very fast. So I think you get the idea that Enscape is making things very easy for you that used to be very tricky. Also, Enscape isn't the first real-time rendering engine that was on the market. There were game engines long before Enscape started, but we felt that for an architect, it's very tedious to go through all this process. Before doing Enscape, we even had our own business using a game engine to do all this. But we found that as an architect, you want to do it, first you want to do it yourself, second, you don't have days or maybe weeks to prepare the project for this presentation, but you want to do it, if you wait 2 weeks, the process will be in a totally different stage, and you can't show to your client what the actual process is or what the actual project is. So this is something that's very important. You want to do it yourself, and I'll get to that later. So now, also showing it to your client is done very easy. You can send out, it's much easier to use with 2 screens than with 1. So now this is the panorama. You click a button, it uploads to the cloud, and afterwards you click on it. Oh, I'm not connected. Well, I'll show you on my PC later on how that works. But if you're connected, you can easily upload things to the cloud. You can walk through in the browser. I can show you in a minute. And yeah, that's basically it. But now, this is the part for all the users who don't know Enscape. Now, what's new with Enscape? Well, so first of all, maybe some of you were in the presentation of Sandeep this morning. He's there. He mentioned RTX. This is a big one, because our aim is not only that it has to be simple, but it has to look beautiful. And so one of the things that's coming with the next version is that Enscape integrates real-time path tracing support, and we use the RTX support for NVIDIA. where they have integrated this into their hardware. So even before, to be honest, even before we did some real-time path tracing, but it's a lot faster if you do it in hardware acceleration, and that's what RTX gives it. And I can show you something later on, a small demo that we also showed at the NVIDIA RTC. They showed some images, but you know, maybe you have realized by now that I like to show things on the fly, so I'll show you the real demo here. Better shadows, settings per project, that's something we're always aiming for better quality, so better shadows and assets per project. That's something where we both aim for a better workflow and better visuals. These are the two key things that Enscape does. Then also, are there any Revit users here? Oh yeah. Yeah, for Revit users, you know that maybe you have played with the assets a little bit. We have introduced an asset library in the last version of Enscape, and it didn't look nice in Revit. Everyone told us that, and so now with 2.6 we will give you the capability to link out pretty looking objects with your Revit families. And I hope that this is a big one, at least everyone tells me that. Plus, an ArchiCAD editor is something that might come, totally uninteresting for you who use Revit or Rhino, but it's something that's coming. So before I do the demo, where are we heading with Enscape? So this is the visual quality that we feel is possible in the near future. And with our own asset store, you should be able to create these vivid and rich environments in your project. I know that typically if you design a project, it's very simple, very rare, but you want to make it lively, so we create an asset library that's constantly growing. Plus, if you click on objects, you want to see the BIM information. Next, you want to do annotations. If you're in a project meeting with your client, you want to do annotations so you can change things later, or just click on an object and change the material. These are all things that are on our near-term agenda. What's not on the near-term agenda, to make it run on the web, which also works, but like Enscape can run on the web, but I can show you that later at the booth. Here I don't have internet connection, as I just found out. But if you come to the booth later, I can show you that. Yes, and so all of these functionalities, we want to link it to the Revit project and make it run in the browser. That's something where we feel it would make it a lot simpler, because we know that in many large firms, if you have an executable, it's restricted, so we want to make it run in a browser, everyone can access it. I think I'll continue with the presentation and because I have to switch things, do the demo at the end. So why is this relevant? You notice that that many people here already use Enscape, and that already 85% of the big architecture firms, top 100, use Enscape in their daily workflow. And I even included you there. Foster & Partner was an early adopter, and now they're one of the biggest clients, and people from Foster are all over the place now. So thanks for that. So again, why is this relevant for you? It's just one click. This is what separates it from other tools. Even if they say it's one click, you still have to go to another software, whereas Enscape sits in the software as a plugin. And that way, people who have never rendered before, who outsourced it to other agencies or to their visual team, are now able to use visualization and very high fidelity, great looking visualizations with just one click. And this is why this is very relevant. We feel that even now the game engines caught on to this lately. We've been doing it for 4 years. And so we have an advantage, and we do scale up. And I show you the project that I promised you with RTX right now. So this is the KPF project that we showed. And you can see it's a fairly large project, and it runs smoothly on an RTX. And I can even demo you what the difference is between RTX off, where you see the definitions. It doesn't look as nice on the, it looks a little pixelated on the projector, but you can still get it. And the RTX features. So we are working on even better visual quality, and where you can also see quite nicely is in here. So you do see a difference, and we are always aiming to make things easier, to make things faster. This is our one goal, and I think this is also what separates us. How many minutes do I have?
You've got 4 more minutes.
4 more minutes. But that's all. We're fast, we're easy. Now, what's your questions? Thanks.
Questions?
Sorry, a bit of a newbie to this, but I mean, are the objects that you're using there for landscape, let's say the trees, are they from a library within the software, or are they created on the fly from product data that's in the BIM model, maybe being drawn from a product data sheet?
That's actually a very good question. So let me show you. So let's go back to Revit. So you see these are all RPCs, and we replace them with better looking trees. But maybe I can connect here as well. We have our own asset library that sits in the web, and there you have many objects like furniture, like trees that you can drag into your project, but in Revit, place it in here, and then it shows in Enscape. So now I need to quickly start Enscape. And it comes from our library. I hope that this answers your question.
It does. I suppose it raises another one for me, which is how, if there isn't a standard being used for objects or for the way that they're rendered, how things are going to be, you're going to get control if you have to share things with other designers, if you're collaborating and they're visualizing things in a different way. And the value of product data templates is that they provide a standard framework for the data and for objects.
So you mean in Revit, right? Or what
I'm not just meaning Revit, no.
Because that's why I say it's so important with the next version of Enscape, that you can link the way it looks in Enscape to your Revit families where you have all the parameters in there. So you have a better looking object in Enscape, but the parameters are all in Revit. And we also give you this functionality for Rhino in the first place. I hope.
Other questions?
So you see now the trees in here. That's, yeah.
Just a quick one. What's the cost of this product? 'Cause we've seen different examples today where some, like the Unreal, are kind of free and stuff like that. So
I was hoping that someone asked this question. Enscape is fairly reasonably priced. So I think it's £35 for a fixed seat version per month, and you can monthly cancel it, and 600 or £550 for a yearly floating license that you can use for, I would say the ratio it's between 1 to 5 to 1 to 10 people for one license of Enscape to one license of Revit, to 10 licenses of Revit, 5 licenses of Revit. So it's fairly reasonable. And the reason I was hoping that someone asked this question is they are changing their business model in November. No one knows what it's going to be, but there's no business if you don't charge a price. So we feel that we're at a price point that's reasonably priced. Everyone tells us they have a return on invest with one project. And so we're very interested to see whether they sell games and give this out for free. Then it's going to be tricky, and we'll also do games at some point. But for the moment, we feel that they will also introduce a price, and then we don't need to be worried.